"You'll never make it without us," my mom said when I moved out. So I didn't just make it, I bought the building they rent from. Now they're late on payments, and suddenly I'm heartless. I still remember the exact words. My mom stood in the middle of our grimy little kitchen, hands on her hips, while my stepdad Doug sat in his recliner scratching his stomach like some kind of sitcom cliche. "It was the night before I left for good. You'll never make it without us," she said, voice shrill with that performative concern she always weaponized. "You think the world owes you something just because you read a few books and got a job in the city?" I didn't say anything, just grabbed the last box of my stuff and left her standing there, triumphant in her own bitterness. That was 6 years ago. At the time, I was 22. I just landed a job doing back-end logistics for a startup in Chicago. Nothing glamorous. Spreadsheets, warehouses, endless emails. But it was mine. And more than that, it was the first thing that was mine. Because growing up, nothing ever really belonged to me, not even my room. Doug turned it into his man cave the second I left for college, which he called a 4-year waste of time. I took out student loans and worked night shifts just to keep going. My mom, she supported me in the way a leaky roof supports a house. You only notice it when it starts collapsing. She had this twisted way of acting like her resentment was a sacrifice. "I could have had a better life if I hadn't had you," she'd say, like I personally robbed her of all her missed chances. Doug wasn't my real dad, just the guy who moved in when I was 10 and started deciding what I could eat, when I could talk, and how loud I could breathe. He called me soft because I cried when my dog died, and ungrateful because I didn't want to work at the hardware store like he did. They rented this sagging duplex from an old guy named Mel, who never raised the rent. Place was all yellow-stained wallpaper and uneven floors. Whenever something broke, Doug would curse and fix it half-assed, then brag about being a man. They expected me to stay, help pay bills, be the third roommate in a house where I barely felt like a son. But I left, took a Greyhound with 2 duffel bags and the last of my dignity, slept on a friend's couch for months, ate ramen in silence while trying not to cry about the eviction notices still arriving in my name because they used my credit once, just to keep the lights on. Fast forward. I worked, I saved, I moved jobs, got into commercial real estate logistics, then leveraged that into brokerage. Boring stuff. Leases, square footage, property values. But it made money. Real money. And last year, I bought the building. Not a metaphor, not a figure of speech. I bought the actual brick-and-mortar duplex they've been living in for 20 years. The deed has my name on it. When Mel died, his niece wanted to sell off his properties. Most were junk. But that duplex? I recognized it the second I saw the address. I didn't gloat. I didn't say a word. I just bought it through an LLC, hired a property manager, and let the lease roll over. They've been late on rent 5 times in 7 months. Still expect me to show up with groceries when the fridge is empty. Still send me guilt-trippy texts with half-spelled words and dramatic Bible quotes. Last week I issued a notice. Not an eviction, just a formal late payment warning. That's when the phone call started. "You're heartless," my mom sobbed into the voicemail. "After all we did for you, you're turning your back on your family." Doug sent a text that said, "Hope your money keeps you warm when you're all alone." Funny, I haven't felt this warm in years. When I was little, I used to think family was just what you had by default. Like furniture in a rental. You didn't pick it, but it came with the place. You didn't expect it to be perfect, just functional. Turns out some furniture is broken on arrival. Some of it gives you splinters. My mom, Sandra, was a master of guilt. She'd cry on cue, go from trembling lip to full breakdown if someone looked at her sideways. Then the second the door closed, she'd straighten up, wipe her face, and start mocking whoever had dared pity her. Doug, my stepdad, was worse. He didn't cry. He didn't have to. He just stared. That dead-eyed, heavy kind of stare, like you were wasting oxygen. His love language was muttering figures every time something went wrong and blaming me if the coffee ran out. When I moved out, I didn't go no contact. I should have, but I didn't. I still answered their calls. Still sent the occasional birthday card. Still sent them $300 the time Doug's truck broke down, because I owed it to them. I was stupidly clinging to this fantasy where someday they'd say they were proud of me. That day never came. Even when I made something of myself. When I sent a photo of my first office space, tiny sure, but mine, my mom replied with, "Must be nice to sit all day while real people work." Doug just texted, "Hope they give you a real man's job soon." I deleted the messages, but I never forgot them. So when I bought the duplex, I told myself it was just business. They were tenants. Problem tenants, honestly, with spotty rent and excuses like, "We had to help your cousin move," or "Doug got a tooth pulled and we had to cover meds." But I figured, whatever, I could let it slide a few months. Until last month, I found out they were subletting half the duplex, illegally. They never asked, never mentioned it, just took the cash and pocketed it. And when my property manager confronted them about it, my mom called me sobbing. "Why are you letting strangers harass us?" she said. "I thought you cared about your family. You don't know what we go through." I was stunned, not because she lied. That was her default setting, but because she was using the family card after literally scamming her way into extra rent money and still being late. Then came the escalation. Doug started parking on the front lawn like a defiant teenager. My mom stopped paying altogether, claiming they needed time to recover from emotional trauma. What trauma? The trauma of consequences? The final straw came 2 weeks ago. They showed up, uninvited, at my condo, my home. I opened the door and there she was. My mom, red-eyed, with mascara streaks like war paint. Doug, standing behind her with his arms crossed like a bouncer at a dive bar. "You owe us a conversation," she snapped. "I owe you rent," I said. She pushed past me, just barged in. "This is how you live now? So fancy? While we rot?" Doug glanced around and scoffed. "Bet you paid for this with blood money. Selling out. Must be nice." I asked them to leave. They didn't. My mom started crying again, this time flopping onto my couch like a daytime soap actress. "We're struggling, and you're throwing us in the street?" I told them plainly, "Pay or move." That was the contract. Doug exploded, threw a coaster across the room, shouted that I was a disgrace, said I was never really their son, just some mouth to feed until I grew up, and stabbed them in the back. I kicked them out. I sat on the floor afterward, shaking, not sad, just vibrating with this hollow hot ache. I'd been trying to outrun that kid inside me who just wanted them to say good job, but all I got was more of the same. More blame, more cruelty, more fire for being warm, and now? Now I'm filing the eviction papers. They think I'm bluffing, but I am done being their safety net. I'm not the soft-spoken kid anymore, and I didn't just make it, I made it despite them. The eviction notice went out on a Monday morning. Certified mail, no warning text, no last-minute, "Are you sure?" phone call. Just ink, paper, and legal silence. I'd rehearsed it for weeks. Every possible reaction they might have. Screaming, crying, threats. I even expected them to show up again, banging on my door like last time. But they didn't. Not at first. What happened instead was worse. My Aunt Rhonda called me that evening. Sweet voice. Guilt-laced like everything in that side of the family. "Hey, honey, just wanted to say, we're all worried about your mama. She's real upset. Said you're trying to make her homeless?" I nearly laughed. Homeless? They had 30 days. And they hadn't paid rent in 3 months. I explained that. Calm, measured, professional. Rhonda sighed. "I just hope you're not letting money change you. You were always such a good boy." Ah, there it was. The real message. They were building a narrative now. I was the villain. Cold, greedy, heartless. No mention of the screaming, the subletting, the threats. Just poor Sandra and poor Doug being terrorized by their ungrateful son. By Thursday, it had spread. Cousins texting vague, passive-aggressive stuff like, "Family's supposed to stick together." A childhood friend messaged, "Your mom said you're evicting them while she's sick?" What the hell, man? I hadn't heard a single word about her being sick. But that's how my mom operated. She didn't ask for help. She performed it, like a Facebook post brought to life. I ignored it. Until Saturday. That's when the vandalism started. I walked out of my building and found my car keyed. Deep, angry. From bumper to tail light. 3 words carved in shaky all-caps rage. "Selfish piece of shit." I froze. Not because of the damage. I could fix the car, but because I knew who did it. Not proof, not security footage, just that crawling, gut-deep certainty. Doug. He's always had that angry little boy streak. Break things when he doesn't get his way. Punch walls, slam doors. Now I was the wall. I filed a police report. Pointless, probably, but I wanted it on record. The officer took photos, jotted down the damage, asked if I had anyone who might do this. "My tenants," I said, deadpan. She gave me a look. "Family? Used to be," I muttered. Back at my place, I scrolled through my mom's Facebook. I shouldn't have. I knew better. But there it was. A public post, already with 27 comments and a dozen shares. I never thought my own child would turn me out into the street like trash. After raising him, feeding him, sacrificing everything for him. This is how he repays us. Pray for us, y'all. This world is cruel. Top comment, Rhonda, shame on him. You deserve better, sis. Second comment, my cousin Ben. Ain't no amount of money worth your soul. SMH. No one asked for the full story. No one mentioned that I paid their rent for a year after buying the place. That I gave them every chance. That they treated me like a walking ATM with no boundaries. I wanted to scream. I wanted to comment and correct every lie. Post screenshots. Show receipts. Tear down the illusion brick by brick. But I didn't. Because part of me knew this wasn't about truth. This was about control. My mom had lost hers. And now she was trying to get it back the only way she knew how. Shame, guilt, public sympathy. The scary part? It was working. And then, right as I was about to put my phone down, I got a DM from someone unexpected. Darla, my mom's old landlord from before Mel, the one they left in the middle of the night without paying. Hey, saw what they posted. Just so you know, they did the same to me in 2014. Left holes in the walls and took the microwave. You're not the problem. It was like oxygen. And I realized something then. This wasn't new. I wasn't the first person they'd leached off of. I was just the first to say no loud enough that the whole damn family heard it. But if they thought this was over, they hadn't seen anything yet. The notice gave them 30 days to vacate. On day 12, I got a letter in the mail. Not certified, not typed, handwritten. It was on yellow legal paper, folded sloppily and crammed into an envelope addressed in my mom's loopy, uneven scrawl. No stamp, which meant she, or Doug, drove it over and dropped it off themselves. Inside, 4 pages of emotional napalm. It started with, I never thought I'd have to beg my own child for mercy. And it went downhill from there. She called me ungrateful, said she regretted every late night feeding me, every scraped knee she bandaged, and said this was worse than if I died. Yes, she literally wrote, it would hurt less if I got a call saying you were dead than living to see this betrayal. I stared at those words for 5 minutes before I could breathe again. Doug's part was scribbled on the bottom. Different pen, blockier handwriting. You think money makes you better than us? Just remember who wiped your ass. You're not special. You're just the landlord now. And I've dealt with worse. I folded the letter slowly and put it in a drawer. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat on my kitchen floor, back against the fridge, and stared at the tiles like they might give me some kind of answer. It wasn't just the cruelty. It was how expected it felt. Like part of me had always known it would come to this. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part came 3 days later. My mom posted my address on Facebook, buried in a rant about how she was being evicted by her heartless son. She included a paragraph about the luxury high-rise he bought with blood money and named the cross streets. A couple of local family members shared it. One even tagged the building. And then the DMs started. Some anonymous, some with names I hadn't seen since middle school. People calling me a soulless yuppie, a gentrifier. One person wrote, hope someone teaches you what eviction feels like. Bet you'd cry real fast. I called a lawyer. She was calm. Said we could draft a cease and desist. Maybe even look into defamation depending on what they were saying. But what got me, what absolutely gutted me, was when she asked, do you feel physically safe? And for the first time since this all started, I hesitated. Because the truth, I wasn't sure. Doug had that simmering, silent type of rage, the kind that doesn't explode, it festers. I remembered once when I was 15, he didn't talk to me for 3 days because I left a spoon in the sink. Another time, he smashed a toaster against the wall because the cord was tangled. I never forgot that sound, metal hitting drywall, his breathing afterward. And now I was threatening his roof. He wasn't going to take it lying down, so I did what I should have done weeks ago. I installed cameras, lobby, hallway, front door. I called the building security team, gave them photos. I even moved my car to a secured garage. Because something in my gut told me this wasn't just going to end with Facebook posts and angry letters. They were losing control, losing comfort, losing the illusion that they still had a grip on me. And when people like them start losing, they go feral. I didn't know how bad it would get, but I was about to find out. Update 1. Wow. Okay. I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. First off, thank you to everyone who DM'd or commented with support. Seriously, I didn't think strangers on the internet could make me feel this seen. Some of you even shared your own stories about toxic parents, and I want you to know, I read every single one. Some of y'all made me cry in public. Others made me laugh harder than I have in weeks. A few standout gems. To the person who said, your mom weaponized motherhood like it came with a receipt. I choked on my coffee. Too real. To the guy who commented, Doug probably thinks gaslighting is what happens when the stove works. Bless you. And to the 5 different people who suggested I buy them a congratulations on your eviction cake, I am genuinely considering it. Now, the update. So remember how I said I was expecting things to escalate? Well, I was not prepared for what happened next. 2 nights ago, someone broke into the laundry room of the duplex. They didn't steal anything, but they trashed it, ripped the dryer hose out, dumped detergent everywhere, scrawled traitor on the inside of the washer lid in Sharpie. The camera caught Doug. Clear as day, midnight, hoodie up, but his dumbass wore the same boots he always wears. The ones I bought him 2 Christmases ago. Police are involved. Charges pending. But now it's not just about unpaid rent or hurt feelings. Now it's criminal. Now it's war. And since y'all asked, yes, the revenge is coming. I've been quiet long enough. They made this personal. Good. So will I. Programma ChatGPT Skazala. You ever feel something snap inside you but quiet? Like a string just gave out somewhere deep in your chest, but no one hears it but you? That was me. The night I saw Doug on the security footage. Not angry, not shocked, Just done, like something final settled into place. So I stopped waiting for them to do the right thing, stopped hoping they'd come to their senses, and I started making calls. First was to the lawyer. I wanted the eviction fast-tracked. With the vandalism charges, that was now possible. She said, "You sure you want to go scorched earth?" I said, "No, I want to go frozen ground. Nothing grows back." Next was the property manager. I gave him full clearance to begin the process. Lock change scheduled for 8 a.m. on the 31st day. No exceptions. Then I called in a favor. See, I'd kept in touch with Mel's niece, the one who sold me the building. Real estate agent, bit of a gossip, and an absolute bloodhound when she wants to be. I asked if she knew of anyone who'd been stiffed or screwed over by Sandra or Doug in the past. She laughed. "Oh, honey," she said, "how much time you got?" Turns out my mom and Doug had left a trail of disaster across town. An old landlord who still had a hole in the drywall from a drunken fight. A furniture rental place they owed $700 to. A pawn shop owner who said Doug once tried to sell a used toaster and claimed it was vintage. There was even a woman who ran a daycare where my mom worked for 2 weeks before quitting and demanding unemployment. These weren't just toxic people, they were scorched earth people. So I did something petty, vindictive, maybe even a little cruel. I wrote a letter, printed copies, and mailed them to everyone on my mom's friends list. The church ladies, the co-workers, the hairdresser she raved about. I didn't lie, I didn't embellish. I just listed facts. 3 months of unpaid rent, illegal subletting, vandalism caught on camera, prior landlord damage and small claims history, current eviction status, docket number included. Then, at the bottom, if you're going to support someone, know who you're supporting. I didn't sign it. Didn't have to, because the next morning, my mom posted a Facebook status that just read, "Some people think money gives them the right to ruin lives. I hope karma finds you before I do." No likes, no comments, just the digital equivalent of a scream in an empty room. Later that day, Rhonda texted me. Just 2 words. Too far. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't feel guilty, because they'd weaponized every piece of my childhood. Every dollar, every missed birthday, every scraped knee I'd nursed by myself. And now, I was weaponizing truth. They started this war. I was just making sure they didn't walk away pretending they'd won. The morning of the eviction, I stood across the street in my car, coffee in hand, watching the locksmith drill out the front door like it was any other Tuesday. But it wasn't any Tuesday. It was the day. Sandra came storming out in pajama pants and a stained hoodie, screaming before she even hit the porch. "You can't do this!" Like the volume of her voice could rewrite legal proceedings. Doug followed, slower, quieter, arms crossed, jaw tight, watching, calculating, like he thought he still had a card left to play. He didn't. The locksmith ignored them. So did the property manager, clipboard in hand, walking room to room, cataloging damage, broken blinds, cigarette burns on the kitchen linoleum. Someone had written, "Home is where the heartless are," on the bathroom mirror in lipstick. They'd known this day was coming. They just thought I wouldn't follow through. My mom spotted me across the street, charged toward my car like a wounded animal, tears in her eyes, fury in her throat. She slapped the window once, hard. I didn't flinch. "You did this," she said through the glass. "You're throwing your family into the gutter. How do you even sleep at night?" I lowered the window just a crack, just enough to speak. "Better than I ever did under your roof." Her face contorted. Shock first, then rage, then that familiar victim mask sliding into place. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "God sees everything." I almost laughed. "Cool. So do the cameras." I rolled the window back up and drove away. But I didn't go home. I went to my office downtown, sat at my desk, poured myself a whiskey even though it was 9:15 a.m. Don't judge, I earned that one. Then I pulled up Facebook. My mom had already changed her profile picture to a black square. Caption, "Lost everything today. Pray for us." Top comment, Rhonda again. What kind of monster evicts their own mother? I cracked my knuckles, took a sip, and hit post on a scheduled message I'd written the night before. It was a video. Security footage of Doug vandalizing the laundry room. Clear, time-stamped, undeniable. Followed by scanned copies of the unpaid rent notices. A spreadsheet of payment history. The sublet lease my property manager had found in their trash. Then my voice overlaid at the end. I didn't evict my parents. I evicted 2 tenants who lied, stole, and destroyed property. The fact that they happened to be related to me only proves one thing. Blood means nothing without respect. By noon, it had 7,000 views. By 2 p.m., someone had screenshot Rhonda's comments and started dragging her in the replies. By 5 p.m., my mom deleted her Facebook entirely. And Doug? Doug tried to apply for an apartment across town. Guess who owns that building too? I didn't deny the application. I just let it sit, pending. Forever. Update 2. Well, that escalated beautifully. Honestly, I thought posting the video would be the final exhale. A mic drop, a digital eulogy for a relationship I buried years ago. But y'all turned it into something else entirely. Some of you turned into FBI agents. Someone found Doug's old Yelp reviews from 2013. Another person DM'd me a screenshot from my mom's ancient Etsy shop. She tried to sell blessed vinegar jars for cursing debt collectors. I howled. But the messages that hit hardest were the ones from people who got it. The ones who said, "You're not heartless. You just stopped bleeding for people who used your wounds as faucets." That stuck with me. Anyway, here's what happened since the last update. Rhonda deleted her comment thread and posted an apology. A full paragraph even. I almost fainted. My cousin Ben texted me. "First time in 3 years. You did what we all wish we had the balls to do." And the cherry on top? Someone tagged my mom's old church in the video. The pastor messaged me, said, and I quote, "I'm so sorry for what you've endured. If you ever want to come back to service, the door's open. Your mother hasn't been back since." So now, they're quiet. Doug's been ghosted by the leasing office I manage. My mom tried texting me a Bible verse last night. No apology. Just Jeremiah something about honoring thy mother. I blocked her. Because honor isn't unconditional, and neither is housing. Next part coming. We're not quite done yet. Programa ChatGPT skazala, it's a weird kind of peace. The silence after the storm. No more voicemails, no more porch confrontations, no more cryptic Bible verses sent at 2 a.m. like spiritual drive-bys. My phone's been quiet for a week, and I still flinch when it buzzes, expecting another guilt missile. But there's one thing I didn't tell you yet. What I did after the video went viral. Because while the internet roasted Doug and Sandra into the shadow realm, I wasn't just sitting around soaking it in. I was working on the final piece of the story, the one they couldn't scream over or play victim through. See, back when I bought the building, I did more than just become their landlord. I started something, quietly, in the background. Unit by unit, I renovated the place. Not flashy, HGTV-level stuff. Just new paint, decent appliances, a few dignity upgrades for folks who'd been stuck in slumlord hell for years. I kept the rents low, prioritized tenants who were longtime locals. I started calling it my reverse gentrification project. Like a joke, but it stuck. And after Doug and Sandra were out, that unit got the biggest renovation of all. New floors. Soundproofing. I tore out the rotting carpet and burned it. Literally burned it in a fire pit like it owed me money. Then I knocked down the half wall Doug installed illegally for privacy back in 2009. The thing was full of beer cans and black mold. It took 3 weeks and a lot of rage spackling, but when it was done, I handed the keys to someone who deserved it. Her name's Mrs. Alvarez. Widowed, 68, retired lunch lady, sweetest human alive. She'd been living in the next building over, facing eviction from a different slumlord who jacked the rent $400 overnight. I waived her deposit, cut her rent below market rate, carried her box of porcelain angels up the stairs myself. She cried when she walked in, just stood there in the doorway of what used to be their apartment and whispered, "Is this really mine?" And I said, "Yeah, it is. You earned it more than they ever did." That's the real revenge, isn't it? Not just taking something back, but replacing it with something better. They used that space to lie, to scream, to manipulate. Now it smells like lemon cleaner and arroz con pollo and someone humming along to old Selena songs on a radio. You can feel the difference. Even the walls seem relieved. And me? I sleep better than I have in years. Because they thought they broke me. But really? They built the man who took everything back. I went back last night, not for drama, not for closure, just curiosity, I guess. One of those restless nights where you drive without a destination and somehow end up exactly where the pain started. The street was quiet, damp from rain. The duplex, my duplex, looked different in the dark, less haunted. The porch lights glowed soft yellow. Mrs. Alvarez had strung up a little wind chime. The sound was faint and steady, like a heartbeat that finally calmed down. I parked a block away, walked the sidewalk barefoot, like some idiot looking for ghosts. I stopped across from the unit that used to be theirs. For a moment, I saw it all at once. Doug stomping through the living room in muddy boots, my mom on the couch fake crying over a cable bill she never intended to pay. Me standing there at 16, holding my report card like it meant something. And I just breathed, let it rise, let it pass. The anger, the shame, the begging for love ache. It's weird. You spend your whole life wanting something simple, respect, kindness, a safe place to come home to. And when you don't get it, you start believing it's your fault. That if you just worked harder, got richer, proved yourself loud enough, they'd finally see you. But they never do, because people like them don't see. They use, they drain, and when you stop letting them, they call you heartless. So maybe I am. Maybe I grew one of those cold stone hearts my mom used to warn me about. But that heart, it beats strong. It built homes for people like Mrs. Alvarez. It said no when no one else would. It learned how to survive love that came with strings attached to a tripwire. I left a note on the steps before I walked away. folded, no name, just, this place doesn't belong to Pain anymore. Live well. That's it. That's the story. I didn't just make it without them. I made it better than they ever imagined. And the most poetic part? They're just tenants now. In everyone's memory, including mine.